My father didn't go to our mother's funeral, because his girlfriend told him not to. Even though they were still friends, he stayed away. And now, he's threatening to hurt himself because everyone knows he was unfaithful. My mom passed away just over a month ago, and I still can't believe what my dad did. I never thought my own father could be so selfish, but his actions have truly made me angry. Although, to be fair, the context of why I'm so upset about all this matters. My parents divorced about 8 years ago, give or take. It wasn't a nasty divorce, at least not on the surface. They remained friends. They still talked every week, checked in on each other, and Dad would even stop by her house to fix things when she got sick. Mom always said she didn't hate him, they just didn't love each other in the way you need to stay in a relationship. At least, that's what Mom used to say. And apparently, he felt the same way, because sometimes they'd grab coffee together or talk about us, their kids. They were like friends, and it made everything so much easier for everyone. And while that made some people uncomfortable, it worked for them. Dad started dating a woman named Carla about 2 years ago. I met her once at dinner. She was polite, but she had that weird energy, like someone who secretly thinks she's better than everyone else. Nothing obvious, just that kind of fake sweetness where the compliments have a sharp edge behind them. I didn't think much of it. She wasn't trying to replace my mom, I'm an adult now, so she wasn't really part of my life anyway. When Mom got sick again earlier this year, Dad was still in touch with her. He even offered to drive her to some doctor's appointments. Even after all these years, they still had a friendship. But when she passed away, I called him that same morning to let him know, because I wanted him to hear it from one of his kids, not from someone else. I told him the funeral would be that weekend and asked if he was coming. He said he would. But later, he called me back to say he couldn't, because Carla didn't think it was appropriate. At first, I thought maybe she was sick or something. But no, what he meant was that it would be disrespectful for him to attend his ex-wife's funeral, because it might hurt Carla's feelings. I remember feeling furious. She was jealous of a woman he divorced 8 years ago, a woman who is now dead. My mom never felt any resentment toward him. She literally helped him refinance his car a few years ago when he was in debt. And somehow, this woman thought it was wrong for my father to say goodbye to someone who had once been important to him, to the mother of his children. To her, all of this was disrespectful. I told him to think about it again, but he just said he didn't want any drama. That was it. Days later, the funeral came and went, and he never showed up. Not even to say goodbye. At the service, some of Mom's friends asked where he was, because they knew they'd remained close. I wasn't going to lie or hide the truth. I told them his girlfriend hadn't let him come. Now, let me make something clear. I understand it's unusual to stay on friendly terms with an ex. But my father had that kind of cordial relationship for years. He cared about her, even after they'd both moved on. So I don't understand what would have been so wrong about saying goodbye. It's not like he could cheat with a dead woman. If it hadn't been a problem all these years, why now? My brother and sister were just as angry as I was, but they kept quiet for my sake, since I was the one handling most of the arrangements. They didn't want to ruin the atmosphere. They had plenty to say to our father, but they let my short explanation, his girlfriend didn't let him come, be enough. After the service, when things had calmed down, I called him again. I told him how much it hurt that he hadn't shown up. He said he wanted to remember her in his own way. I told him that was the lamest excuse, that if his girlfriend told him to bark, he'd probably do it. He started yelling at me, saying I was disrespecting him, disrespecting Carla, and disrespecting my mother. I don't know how I disrespected my mother, I spent the whole day honoring her memory. I told him I didn't care what Carla thought, that even if he didn't do it for his ex-wife, he should have done it for his children, who lost their mother that day. At least to me, that should have mattered more than his girlfriend's jealousy. In the heat of the moment, I told him that today, I had said goodbye to both my parents. But I also made another decision, one that came less from anger and more from reason. See, for context, my dad retired early, but not comfortably. He's been living off a mix of savings, small pensions, and our help, My siblings and I have been covering things like utilities, medication, and repairs. We always did it because he's our dad, and Mom had agreed with it too. That's the kind of relationship they had. They didn't love each other anymore, but they still cared. But after this, my siblings and I decided that would stop, immediately. We told him directly, if Carla has such strong opinions about what's respectful and what's not, then she can respectfully take care of his lifestyle too. We also told him we wouldn't be handling his funeral arrangements when the time came. We said, if Carla has opinions about ex-wife's funerals, she can plan yours. He lost it. He called us ungrateful, cruel, vindictive. He said that without our mother around, we'd turned into heartless brats, and a bunch of other things, all revolving around how angry he was that we were upset he had moved on. My brother told him he could move on however he wanted, just not at our expense. It's not about money. It's about the lack of empathy he showed. Mom deserved better, and so did we. Dad spent years making sure none of us hated him after the divorce, and this is how he repaid it. It's almost funny now, how he managed to undo all that effort in just a couple of hours. Either way, I can't imagine how it must feel to know he couldn't even be in the same room as her casket because his girlfriend might feel uncomfortable. If he can choose his girlfriend's comfort over the memory of his ex-wife, and over his children's pain, then he can live with the consequences. I'm done being the adult for my father. But a few things have come up that changed the way I see everything. And I think it's only fair to write them here, after so many people have taken the time to read and respond to my post. Though I should probably say our post, because even if my siblings don't write here, they're just as involved in all this as I am. After the welfare check incident, things stayed quiet for a while. We didn't hear much from Dad anymore, though through relatives we knew he was doing better. Carla sent one or two guilt-tripping texts, things like, he hasn't been the same since you all turned your backs on him. But it was Carla being Carla. My brother blocked her, my sister ignored her, and so did I. We all agreed to stay away. Then last week, I went to visit my aunt, my mom's sister, because I wanted her help sorting through some of Mom's old things. While we were organizing photos and keepsakes, she asked if I'd talked to Dad lately. I told her, no, not much. She let out this deep sigh, the kind that tells you she's been holding something back. That's when she told me what I think I had already started to suspect. Dad and Carla were seeing each other before the divorce. At first, I didn't even react. I just sat there. I think my aunt was expecting a bigger reaction, but that was it, I just went blank. Honestly, I don't think there is a right reaction to something like that. She said Mom had confided in her years ago that she'd found out Dad was sleeping with someone from his office, and yes, it was Carla. Mom didn't tell us because she didn't want more drama. She was already planning to divorce Dad, and for everyone's sake, she decided to keep things civil. That civility later turned into friendship. It's not that she forgave him, she just didn't want us to get caught in the middle of it. Apparently, she even made my aunt promise not to tell us, unless someday there was a reason we needed to know. And I think all of this qualifies as a reason. So that whole story Dad always told people, we just grew apart, was a lie. Mom knew, and yet she still stayed friendly with him afterward. She let him come to her house for dinner sometimes, let him talk about us, their kids. She even asked us to help him financially when he retired early, saying he'd always been a good father and didn't deserve to struggle. Now, I know some people will say my mom was a fool for not telling us, for hiding what he did. But our mom only had love in her heart. That's why her funeral was full of people who loved and respected her. Sure, she'd had her share of people who hurt her, like our father, but in the end, that became karma for him. Because at the funeral, people couldn't understand why he wasn't there. That's why he's earned everyone's resentment now. I can't stop thinking about her, sitting through all that, knowing he had cheated, and still being kind to him for her children's sake. Still calling him when he was sick. Still forgiving him. And then he couldn't even show up at her funeral, because his girlfriend was uncomfortable. I don't even know what to call this feeling. It's not just anger, it's disgust mixed with shame. Because part of me feels stupid for ever defending him. I went to confront him the next day. I didn't tell anyone because I knew my brother and sister would try to stop me. When I got there, Carla answered the door. Immediately, she put on that fake surprised face, like she couldn't believe I was there. She said Dad wasn't feeling well. I told her I didn't care, I wasn't leaving until I saw him. He looked surprised, but not sick, just irritated. He started by saying he didn't want any more drama. I told him it didn't matter what he wanted, that drama was knocking on his door because of him. That I knew about him and Carla before the divorce, and that after everything that's happened, he at least owed us some honesty. He didn't even deny it. He just said things were complicated back then, and that our mother also wanted out of the marriage. That might be true, but we'll never be able to ask Mom about it. Either way, it doesn't make Carla look any better, because on top of being the mistress, she was now jealous of a dead person. Carla started to intervene, saying she wasn't going to sit there and watch a good man be mistreated by me. I don't know how I managed to hold myself back, not to laugh or slap that stupid look off her face. Everything was already bad enough without having to listen to her say things like, "People make mistakes, and you shouldn't use that to attack your father." She was so condescending that I didn't even respond. It was like my brain decided she was just a rock, something worthless, not even worth my time. Dad got defensive and started raising his voice, saying, "Your mother wouldn't want us to fight like this." I told him maybe that was true, but I was also sure Mom wouldn't have wanted him to sleep with another woman, either. He said a few more things, but for me, the conversation was over the moment I got my confirmation. When I got home, I told my siblings everything. My brother was furious, even more than before, and couldn't hide it. My sister cried when she heard it. We all agreed there would be no more pretending that he's just confused or under Carla's influence. He made his own choices. We cut off all contact after that. Blocked their numbers. No more checking in to see how he's doing. But of course, word travels fast in families. Within days, I started getting messages about it, even though we hadn't told anyone. My aunt must have confided in someone, because the next thing I knew, our uncle, Dad's brother, called, saying he'd heard from one of Dad's friends that we were spreading lies. Still, my uncle said he believed my mom's version, not Dad's friends. Even some of Dad's old friends felt the same, because one of them messaged me, saying, "Your mom was a saint for how she handled everything." And honestly, if even some of Dad's own friends are turning their backs on him over this, then he's not the victim he's trying to pretend to be. Update 3. Honestly, I thought I had already said and done everything there was to say and do. But then I heard something from one of my mom's old friends, who still keeps in touch with some of Dad's side of the family. She called to tell me that Carla has been telling people that I lied about the affair to ruin their relationship, and that it caused my dad to have some kind of emotional breakdown. For the record, my dad is fine. He's a proud man who hates embarrassment more than anything. If he's miserable, it's not because of me, it's because people finally found out what he really did. At first, I tried to ignore it. I didn't see the point of fighting against rumors started by a woman who's done nothing but make my family miserable since the day she showed up. But ignoring Carla doesn't make her go away. A few days after the gossip started, she showed up at my workplace. We're right next to a busy shopping area, so people are coming and going all the time. I was just getting back from lunch when I saw her standing there. At first, I thought I was imagining it, because there's no universe where I'd expect to see her there. Before I could even ask what she was doing, she started saying that my dad was at his breaking point and that I had ruined his life with lies. I told her she needed to leave, that this wasn't the place for that. But she kept following me toward the door. I told her I didn't want to talk to her. She said she came because our dad couldn't reach any of us since we'd blocked him. I tried to stay calm, but she wouldn't stop. She started begging me to fix things, to take it all back. I told her there was nothing to take back, because it was the truth, and it wasn't my fault people had finally found out. My boss eventually came out and told her to leave, reminding her this wasn't a public space and that if she didn't go, they'd call the police. I have to say, my boss is amazing. He didn't scold me for it, didn't make a scene. He just asked if I was okay and if I needed some time to calm down after she left. She finally left, but not before saying something about how Dad doesn't deserve this kind of hate. That same afternoon, I texted her. Do not come to my work or my home again. If you do, I'll file for a restraining order. I had to unblock her just to send it, then blocked her again. But since I was still getting messages from people who believed I was lying or exaggerating, I decided to make a public post. Until then, I'd kept everything private, but Carla made it impossible by going around spreading lies. I didn't have hard proof of what happened, so I didn't present it as absolute truth. I just wrote something like, my father confessed to having an affair with his current girlfriend, the same woman who stopped him from attending my mother's funeral. I know many of you have been hearing rumors that I made this up, but I hadn't spoken publicly about it until now, other than with my siblings. Carla has been warned that if she continues harassing me, I'll file a restraining order. That goes for anyone taking her side. My siblings and I have decided to cut contact with our father because of this. Everyone else is free to believe what they want, but please stop harassing us. We don't need more stalkers like Carla showing up at our workplaces. I think people received it well, the messages stopped, and most comments were supportive. Within hours, Carla responded publicly on her own social media. Her post said she appreciated everyone respecting their privacy, and that she and Dad didn't start dating until long after the marriage ended, though she understood how rumors can get out of hand. It was as manipulative as it gets. She even tried to paint me as a grieving, confused daughter who must have imagined everything. And as for privacy? I don't even know what to say. She's the one who made all of this worse. If it weren't for her, my aunt never would have felt the need to reveal my mom's secret. I have to say, her post completely backfired. It got way more negative reactions than mine did. Then, out of nowhere, my father emailed me, which honestly shocked me, because that's the one place I hadn't blocked him. He was furious, writing in all caps, saying I'd destroyed his reputation, that people were calling him a cheater and a coward, and that I had no right to dig up the past. He also wrote that he didn't want anything to do with his ungrateful children. My father and Carla created this whole situation themselves, and now they're shocked by the consequences. Update 4. Hi. It's been 6 months, and I'm back once more with an update. We haven't had any contact with our father during all this time. Other relatives who were a little worried about him at first haven't reached out either. After everything that happened, my brother tried once to check in, just to make sure he was okay. Carla answered the phone and said Dad didn't want to speak with anyone who had disrespected him. Well, that phone call didn't go very well. My brother ended up telling Carla quite a few things, many of which she deserved, because she's been responsible for isolating our father from everyone, even though, of course, he's also to blame. What little we know about him now comes through third parties who still have some contact, basically, whoever Carla allows near him. They're inseparable now. She drives him everywhere, manages his medication, and even posts little updates about their life together on social media. I suppose that's just for appearances, because according to what people say, he barely leaves the house anymore. There have been rumors that his health has been getting worse, but he refuses help from anyone who isn't Carla. When his doctor tried to schedule a home visit last month, she canceled it and told them they'd see another professional instead. I don't even know if that ever happened. It's easy to feel sorry for him, watching him ruin his life over her, but knowing he's a grown man making his own choices, we also know he's allowing Carla to have that much power over him. It's strange to think about, a man who once insisted on doing everything his way, now letting someone else speak entirely for him. Carla has stayed away from us, and once things settled down, she stopped mentioning us altogether. No one else has either, at least not to guilt us or use pity as a way to manipulate us into talking to him again. Now, when people bring him up, it's just brief updates, nothing more. I know some people think I should have been a good daughter, that I should worry about my father's physical and mental health. But I did that for years, and you've all seen how that turned out. All we ever wanted was for him to show up to the funeral, and he couldn't even do that. The part about the infidelity was what finally sealed it for us. Now that we know everything, it's clear, he's always put his own happiness, which, indirectly, means Carla's happiness, above everything else. He's done it before in his marriage, and he's done it again at the expense of his children. I hope that brings him enough happiness so that he doesn't miss us. And honestly, I don't think he will. On a different note, last week was Mom's birthday. My siblings and I, along with some of her closest friends, gathered at her favorite beach. We brought her ashes, which we'd kept for a while, since none of us could agree on what to do, and finally let them go. She hadn't left instructions about what to do with them, but we knew she loved that place. Afterward, we went out for lunch and ended up sharing memories and stories about her. My brother mentioned how she used to hum while cooking, even when she was mad at us. My sister remembered how she would stay up late helping us with homework, even after a long, exhausting day. Her friends told stories from before we were born. It was a sad day, but also a happy one. Sometimes, I think about what will happen when he's gone, when Dad passes away. Will Carla expect us to show up and handle the funeral arrangements we already said we wouldn't do? I've made peace with not going. It sounds harsh, but there's nothing left to mourn there. The man who raised me isn't the same man living in that house anymore. Update 5. Hi again. It's been about 4 years since my last update on this story. I don't know if anyone here still remembers it, but you can find my older posts on my profile, that way I don't have to make this one too long. The short version is that my father didn't go to my mother's funeral because his girlfriend, the same woman he cheated with, isolated him from everyone. And that last part, the isolation, has only become truer over the years. Even though we haven't had contact with him, people have always reached out to tell us what's been happening, like Carla, as I've always called his girlfriend, later his wife. She gradually cut him off from everyone. For example, some of his friends who still kept in touch and used to stop by to have a beer with him were turned away. They'd drop by on a Thursday evening, planning to sit out in the backyard with Dad and chat for a bit, only to be met by Carla, who'd tell them that he couldn't see them that day. She did it so often that eventually, they stopped coming. She even started answering his phone for him. At some point, they got married. From what we know, it was mostly for financial reasons, to protect his assets if he died, and to make things easier in case he got sick and needed someone close to handle his care. Since his family, us, his brother, and others, weren't around anymore, she would be the one making the decisions. And that's exactly what happened. A couple of months ago, my father got sick. He was in and out of the hospital until about a week ago, when he finally passed away. Now, if you've read my previous updates, you'll understand why this matters. In a moment of anger, I once told my father that we wouldn't attend his funeral. Later, once the emotions cooled down, we confirmed that decision. We've since learned that not many people attended. Just a few of his old friends, and through them, we found out that even until the very end, Carla was extremely controlling and overprotective. Of course, everything Carla did had a goal: keeping my father's money for herself. But between the hospital bills and the second mortgage on their house, she won't be inheriting much. We're not expecting anything from our father's estate either, but we know Carla won't end up with much, if that was her plan, which I'm 100% sure it was. It's a sad ending, in a way. A person has died. But at the same time, this person stopped being our father a long time ago, all because he let himself be manipulated. And this isn't about blaming Carla alone. It takes two people to play that game, and my father played his part perfectly. So no, we're not sad, at least not the kind of sad that comes with losing a father. We grieved him a long time ago, back when we stopped having one because of his ego, or whatever it was. Update 6. We reported that witch Carla, because, well, she is one. Months ago, I said she wouldn't inherit much, and that turned out to be true. The house was full of debt, and the mortgage didn't magically disappear just because my father died. If she wanted to keep the house, she'd have to take on the bank payments, and in the end, the bank repossessed it. More on that below. There were no savings. No money. Just some personal belongings. So now she's angry at us, claiming that because we cut him off, he somehow died in poverty. It's not like he died broke and living under a bridge or anything, but it's definitely not our fault that he chose to retire early or make the decisions he did. Carla didn't see it that way, of course. She decided to attack us on social media, saying that our father died alone because of us. Sure, the fact that she alienated him from everyone, even from those who didn't care about the infidelity, doesn't seem to be a problem in her version. So, with help from a few people she had also pushed away, people who were genuinely worried about our dad's health, we filed a report. The case didn't go very far, it resulted only in a fine. It's not like she killed him. But legally, she was declared invalid in terms of inheritance. The marriage itself wasn't annulled, but what little remained of my father's estate was transferred to his children. The house was repossessed by the bank, and I think I speak for all three of us when I say none of us wanted it badly enough to save it. As for his personal belongings, even the few valuable ones, we gave them to our father's brother. I don't know if he kept them or sold them, and honestly, we didn't file the report for that reason anyway. We just wanted Carla to face some kind of consequence, to make sure she didn't walk away from all this unscathed. We don't know anything about Carla now, and to be honest, we don't care. But if she thought she was going to walk away from that marriage with some kind of fortune, she was very wrong. She walked away empty-handed, and with a fine. That's all she got. Edit. The prosecutor's office concluded that Carla had deliberately isolated our father to gain financial benefit from him, something that, in the end, didn't benefit her at all. What they couldn't prove was that she directly caused his death. She did make sure he got medical attention, minimal, but enough to cover herself legally. We could have filed a civil lawsuit, but it would have been a long shot. First, she doesn't have much, just her own debts. And second, we're not in the business of avenging our father. I think I've made it clear many times before, he brought this on himself. All we wanted was for that woman to stop dragging us into her mess. And we got exactly that.